To dance, it takes years of practice, a lot of hard work and commitment. I've always been passionate about dance. I love making it, watching it, and expressing it. You could say that dancing is in my blood. My mother started out when she was young, but eventually moved on to other things. Dance and choreography are ways I found to express my creativity. I found it shows how creative you can be and how it can influence your creative style. I was born in the 90s when pop singers and boy bands were all the rage. I always liked to mimic the dance moves, but I also tried to make my own versions of them. My mother always recalls me listening to music like ABBA, Grease, and the Rankin Family, making my own dances and then performing them for my family. I used to hand out tickets for shows that I was going to perform. Growing up, I was also involved with singing in my school and church choir because I found it a way to express myself with both my voice and my body. I think with all of my music involvement, this is when my family was starting to realize that I had a need to perform. My parents then decided that I should try theater and dance. I started dancing when I was around 5 years old. I started in ballet and found that it wasn't really my thing. I then decided to experiment with different styles. I had great teachers who let me experiment with different styles to help me find my own. When I finally perfected my technique, I found it a way for me to express my voice, and I wanted to express it to others. I grew up watching old movies. The creative, original style, and simplicity of the old Hollywood genre is what makes these movies so timeless to me. The acting, laugh-out-loud slapstick humor, and the classic style dancing are all things that drew me into these movies.
That's very interesting.
To be in show business, you had to be known as a triple threat. You had to dance, sing, and act. When I think of a performer who fits that quota, I think of Gene Kelly. He not only fit it, but he defined it. The precision, skill, and imagination that Gene executed that broke boundaries and continues to influence modern dancers like myself everywhere. The man was a mastermind with his feet, had a voice that made birds sing, and could act through a scene that would make us laugh or cry instantly.
What makes you think putting on a show is just a lot of laughs? You ought to try it sometime.
Mr.
You ought to try rehearsing all day, knocking yourself out in the same routine so you're doing them in your sleep.
He could execute any kind of dance, whether it was tap, ballet, ballroom, or jazz. He would be able to make it look effortless. His technique, abilities, and imagination are what make Gene Kelly continue to influence the style of modern dance today. So what makes Gene Kelly's dancing different from all the others? For one thing, he was no traditional hooper. He executed moves throughout his whole body, while most tap dancers dance from the waist down. He added a contemporary edge to the style of dance to excel as a dancer. He found that with the movements he made, it's almost like he was telling a story. Every movement he made had a purpose. One good example would be from the movie Singing in the Rain. Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and Donald O'Connor are singing and dancing around from room to room, creating an entirely different atmosphere in each area. The choreography is what drove the story along, embellishing what was already up there and taking the story to a whole new place through movement. To him, there was no limitation on space. The kinetic energy of movement just creates that extra dimension. Another thing that makes Gene Kelly so inspirational is his creative process. His creativity excels because he steps out of the norms for choreographing a piece. Gene loved incorporating props into his routines, whether it was dancing with a mop, an umbrella, roller skates, or trash can lids on his feet. He always made it look natural. Using all of these objects, people don't realize that it's not easy to work with props while dancing. He used anything and everything around him, and on set there was nothing he couldn't dance with. His imagination was endless as to the amount of props he could use. Gene's imagination has also taken him to revolutionize the film industry as well. The way Gene used modern dance also changed the way we look at motion pictures and film editing. For example, while filming the movie CoverGirl, Gene created a dance sequence where his character was dancing with his conscience. But he wanted to dance with himself. Of course, at the time, there was no such thing as CGI, so Gene decided to film the sequence twice. Each detailed step was marked out, timed, and then was put together as a double-printed footage. His incorporation with Jerry the Mouse also revolutionized the way we view cinema. Although this was not the first film to incorporate cartoon characters live action, Gene was able to modernize the scene with a complex and interactive dance with Jerry. Instead of having them dance side by side, he had Jerry the Mouse dance on his arms, slide down his leg, and sit on his lap. Gene was able to make a dance out of nothing, but to see it done made it all the more reason to watch it. Gene used anything he could to help enlighten the character and how they were feeling. His use of props made the character become more alive and vivid. He becomes the character he plays through his costumes, props, and movement. Gene was also known for saying, "I realized that you can make a characterization out of dancing, not through dialogue, but through movement." He was able to develop characters through his dancing. Gene Kelly's style has also helped modernize dance, not only for the time, but also for future generations of dancers and choreographers. His expressive dance style is what also helped him influence men to start dancing as well. His athleticism is what brought masculinity to dance. For years, dancing was considered to be a female pastime, but Gene brought power to it. He had more of a physical dance style. He thought of himself as an athlete, and it shows through his dancing technique. He danced lower to the ground, and his tapping would be harder, clearer, and more powerful in each step. He made it okay for men to dance without being made fun of. He made it look cool. He changed the way people look at dance forever. When he stepped onto the big screen, Gene wanted to step away from the traditional ballet that was popularized throughout the 19th century. Modern dance was an expressive style that originated in the early 20th century as a way to move away from classic ballet. By adding subjectivity with artistic content, it was a way to express themselves in their dancing. It replaced subjective representation with artistic content intended to portray subjective states. Modernism aimed to capture a spiritual and artistic meaning, and that's what Gene Kelly did. Though modernism had been around for years, Kelly perfected the art and is still an example of what a modern dancer is. Gene wanted to explore dance. He articulated traditional dance with the modern age. He found an American style that modernized the style of dance. This modernization still remains relevant to dance and choreography in the 21st century. Today, dancers and choreographers continue to find ways to express themselves through dance. Modern dance expresses the emotions of these dancers. This can be expressed through many different styles of dance like hip-hop, jazz, and even modern ballet. Modern dance gives an audience an in-depth look into the characters, and it helps bring the stories to life. It was a way of transitioning into a character's mind, to know his or her feelings and thoughts through either song or dance. Gene always found dance to be very transitional and seamless. There wouldn't be a sudden break and they would begin dancing. It was the change from walking into dancing. It showed the character's personas artistically, and that's what modern dancers like Gene live by. I still continue to follow by this rule as well. With choreographing and directing, I try to get an understanding of how I or a character feels. How would they express their thoughts and feelings in this piece of work? And how can I express that for the audience to understand? In musical theater, I was given the chance to direct and choreograph musicals like Grease, Urinetown, and Legally Blonde. Trying to develop my own style and expressionism to the already popular choreographed pieces was struggling, but worth it, because I was able to interpret them and make them pieces of my own. You have to see things differently than others would, and try to look through the eyes of those around you, to really get an understanding of these characters. Without the inspiration of Gene Kelly, I probably would have never found an interest in dance. Gene Kelly will always and forever be the most influential modern dancer of the 20th century. He brought life to his movies, through his movements, development of characters, and masculinity. He was a performer that came to Hollywood and changed the way that dance was fashioned. To this day, I have yet to see anyone embody the dedication and commitment to the art of dance as Gene Kelly. Kelly has influenced so many people and has made quite an impact on a new generation of young dancers and choreographers like myself.
we all thought we were trying to create some kind of magic and joy. And you know, that's what you do up there. You dance love, and you dance joy, and you dance dreams.